Hey there. Ritual here to give a big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. The magic of those family moments, that was you. And now there's new milestones to prep for in 2025. This new year, check clean, quality pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list with Ritual. We've done the research to create science-backed pregnancy support like our prenatal multivitamin, natal choline, and fertility support, all designed to be taken alongside each other. But don't just take our word for it. They're also third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified. So whether you're trying, thinking about trying, or already there, we don't have to tell you that prioritizing yourself can be the hardest part. That's why we're helping you get started today with 30% off a 3-month supply for a limited time at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media studios. They are indeed sumptuous and palatial, though you can't see much of them. I'm thinking maybe that's by design a bit. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Tonight is Thursday. It's March 14th. The year of our Lord, 2019. Snowball is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them. And the lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my left, your right. I can actually see it over there. And that means that you can listen and watch and chat at the SHR Media chat room, shrmedia.com. It also means that, courtesy of Big Sarge, you can watch the show on Redcon One Media. Redcon One Media. Go to their Facebook page right now. Quick like a bunny. Redcon One Media. And you can also watch it on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. Got to tell you that we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free. The booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the damn toilet, jiggle the handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight in the saloon, hour one is going to be with Jeff DUNETZ, he of lidblog.com. And I'm hoping with crossed phalanges that we have a special guest in the studio for hour two, if he happens to make it back on time, but there's no guarantee that that will occur. I think it's going to be a really big shoe for you tonight. I was on Shatheads, jeez, the Shat Show last night with Sackhead's Clint, and that can be heard every Wednesday night. Same Shat time, same Shat channel, with myself and Sackhead's Clint, and we kind of freeform a lot of stuff. That's every Wednesday. And then, of course, my show, if you happen to be a new listener, on Redcon 1, and I hope, so far it looks like it, I'm looking over here. I'm looking at 6 screens in front of me right here, and a phone that I'm going to be using here in just a bit to dial my good friend Jeff DUNETZ. But I was dropping frames like crazy. And courtesy of Big Sarge, who I think figured it out, helped us figure it out. If you would watch the show previously, a lot of the stuff would freeze. And I think that happened to do with the frame rate, the bit rate. And you can't see it, but down under here, under this table off to my right, is a big-ass red and blue illuminated computer with 64 gigs of RAM and a GeForce big-ass video card. And a lot of that stuff has just been recently updated. So when we were getting the staggered playing, it wasn't for lack of power from that damn beast down there. It was because essentially what we had in our hands was a blivet. Now, those who have been in the military will know that a blivet is something similar to, that's when you try to shove 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Well, apparently that's kind of what we were trying to do here at SHR in the studios. The internet is only about that big around, and apparently we were trying to shove that much information down a hole that was only that big. So we had to lower our bit rate, and it was a great suggestion by Big Sarge. And I hope, because I'm looking over here and I'm not seeing any massive objections, because I used to get a pile of objections. You know, the computer would complain to me, look, you've got a problem, you ought to figure it out. Well, look who you're talking to, one of the world's biggest Luddites on the planet, in my 7th decade on the planet, but still I managed to make all this shit run. And the funny thing is that of all the people that are on SHR and that are on the SHR Media Network, you know the guy that puts together the promos and everything that you hear for the breaks in Audacity? The fat guy right here. Yeah, him. Okay. Hello, welcome to the Alaskan in chat. Mary Brockman in chat. Jeff DUNETZ in chat. Michael John Pasqua in chat. And to everybody that's listening in Redcon 1. Also want to thank everybody. I discovered that I get a contingent of truckers who listen to me late at night. And though it is about 8:08 on the far left coast, it's 11:08 on the far right coast, and that means this is a late-night radio show. And I get a ton of viewers and listeners from the East Coast. And I discovered that I also get a lot of people that listen live in trucks because, frankly, truckers, you make America move. And if it weren't for you, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens that are looking at me right now, I probably wouldn't have these in front of me, or that computer, or that laptop, or this Arrakis board right here, and a lot of the other stuff. So thanks, truckers, for listening to me. A lot of you listen in podcast. A lot of folks listen in podcast. If you're on Redcon 1 Media, for Big Sarge, if you happen to be listening, make sure that if you go to his YouTube channel, you hit subscribe on his YouTube channel. Also make sure that if you're listening right now on Redcon 1, that you find that little thing that says, hey, make me a friend, dude. Boink. And follow. Boink. And also, we're at SHR Media Group on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Mine is the most complicated to follow on Twitter. I hope you might have to grab a pen and paper to write this down. On Twitter, I'm at BZEP, B-Z-E-P. I know, it's terrible to try to remember. I have faith. I have faith in you good folks. Next week, I have a couple of openings, and I'm trying to see if I can get some very important people in here. Names not yet to be mentioned. We're in current negotiations. I don't have, well, everyone knows that because of my shameless contract with the SHR Media folks, that I'm Mr. Megabucks, and I have all the cash in the world. Oh, Jeff, I was just trying to call, and I can see you in chat right there. So, Jeff, you're rolling over to voicemail. I may have to resort to calling you on Facebook, but I'll tell you what, let's hang up because I don't want to reveal your phone number on the air. Let me try you once again. And I have... Your call has been forwarded. Oh, no. Okay, anyway, apparently, Jeff, your phone is off. I might try Facebook here in a moment. But there's a ton of stuff. Oh, the Alaskan says, just to let you know, BZ, Redcon video looks good. Great. Okay, well, let me ask you guys that are in chat over in SHR Media right now. Previously, this is kind of a question, when you've been watching on video, has it kind of pissed you off because the screen freezes, etc.? Because that was the major complaint that I was getting from a lot of people. And like I say, we may have actually figured that out. And if you're getting a staggered screen on either YouTube or Redcon 1 or... Okay. Jeff, I may have to call you on Facebook, me bony boy. Anyway, if you guys are getting some staggered video in the chat right here, I would like to know about it. On my end, it looks as though that's not happening because there are generally a stack of messages over here on the right. Mary Brockman says, I didn't know Redcon 1 had video. Yes, Mary Brockman. If for whatever reason you can't find us or nothing happens on the... Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, are we there? Let's see. Jeff? Are you there? Jeff? Okay. All right, Jeff, if you're listening, I'm going to try you one more time, sir. Anyway. If
your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Okay. All right. Oh, and Alaskan, thanks for putting the link to Redcon 1 up there as well. So you've got actually, folks, you've got a lot of choices in terms of where you can watch. You can always listen and get in the chat room at shrmedia.com. SHR Media has its own Facebook page, SHR Media Group, I think, or SHR Media Facebook. And also SHR Media has its own YouTube channel. And then, because we were just added recently, Redcon 1 Media has its own Facebook page, and we should be live right there as well. Okay, so let me see if I can do things this way, if Jeff happens to be listening. Jeff, and if you are, I'm pinging you like a Russian sub on Facebook. Vasily. Just one ping. Just one. Okay, apparently Jeff is doing the Crazy Ivan. So let's stop that. Go back. And unfortunately, this turns out to be a deal killer when you have dead air on radio. So I'm going to give this one more shot. And then, you know what? We're just going to motor on. By the way, Jeff, if you happen to be listening, if for whatever reason your phone is not on, you can always call my cell because I know you have that number. So let's go down here. I'm going to try this. Uno mas. And see if I can get you, sir.
Forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Okay, this is not going to work. So that's fine. I still have a ton of media to go through. Basically, all the stories that I had for Jeff, I'll just do it by myself. That's one thing that you have to do when you have a radio show. With an hour radio show, it's not so bad. But when you have 2 hours that you have to fill with content, especially if you interview somebody, You've got to make sure that you always have backup. And the backup is, oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Okay. Let's try it this way. Jeff, is that you, sir?
Yeah, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How you like that?
That works great. You know, already I'm in chat, I'm getting crap. Can you imagine that?
You know, we've both been on the whole time.
No, Alaskan said, did you pay your phone bill, BZ? And then, of course, you said my phone's been on, but on my end, well, I don't know if you were listening, but on my end, I was getting voicemail on it. So, you know, that's just weird. That's neither here nor there. Success, nothing succeeds like success. So you're here as far as I'm concerned.
My computer's been very down since this whole college scandal happened.
Oh, so it's been depressed. I understand that.
Yeah, because, you know, now I understand why I never got into Yale.
You know, I always wondered why I never got into Yale. Probably the major thing, it's like the lottery. I guess this is how it works. To win the lottery, you have to play. To get into Yale, you have to apply. I
really played on my high school football team. I even got in 2 plays.
Well,
in 4 years.
I could take that and run getting into football. I actually went out for football in high school, which is really weird. But I was about 100 pounds less than I am right now. But anyway, success we have, Jeff DUNETZ. Let's start. Let's start at the start. For the people that are new to Redcon 1, and I'm still looking over here in the corner, and I'm not getting any objections from the system over here. Okay, so I like that. So apparently bringing down the bit rate is better. In any event, Jeff DUNETZ, for some of the folks on Redcon 1 Media who may not have heard of you before, can you tell folks where you can be read, where your website is? You have a great website, a great blog.
Thank you, sir.
And also tell people where you can be found on social media. But I'm going to continue to emphasize the blog because it's excellent.
The blog is at lidblog.com. Lid as in top, lidblog.com.
Correct.
And I also write actually for a Long Island newspaper called the Jewish Star.
Okay.
And Twitter, I am Yid with Lid.
Okay, that seems pretty simple. And the thing that I always like to point out is I started blogging in 2004. Jeff started blogging in, I think you said 2005.
Year after you. Actually, I started blogging because you started blogging.
Oh, okay. That's another point that I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, it's not true, but I thought I'd, buddy you up.
Okay, well, it tell you what, it works. You're getting a Christmas card again this year. Okay, a Hanukkah card. You're getting a Hanukkah card this year. In any event, Jeff has a great blog. I've toned down my frequency of blogging quite a bit just because of all the weird-ass things that have been occurring in my life recently. But I want you to know, folks, that lidblog.com, Jeff is extremely active on that blog, and you won't get a post a day. You won't get 2 posts a day. You won't get 3 posts a day. Sometimes you'll actually get...
I generally do 3 to 4 posts a day except for Saturday.
So I just want to assure you that when I'm promoting a blog for someone that I read, I promo active blogs because now, especially, Jeff is a lot more active than I am. Let's start at the start. One of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to get you had gone to CPAC, and I wanted to make sure that that I speak to you about CPAC, and then a whole bunch of other things have been occurring in terms of news, and one of them was in fact a story that you just recently released tonight. But before we get into a lot of the other stuff, and also I want to get into what the hell is up with the Demorats and deciding that anti-Semitism, you know what, it's really not all that important. And even if we do have some people in the caucus that are anti-Semites. Well, they don't really mean it, and they're not all that bad. We'll get to that because Jeff is going to be here for the full hour. But the first thing I wanted to do, and I'm hoping that perhaps you may have some insight on this, that Hamas decided to drop an assload of rockets on Israel from Gaza, and Israel has decided that they're going to strike back. Now, I think this is the first time that a rocket attack has occurred for a while, since about like 2014 or something like that, isn't it?
No. There have been infrequent rocket attacks. They never really stopped.
Okay.
But the war in 2014 that started because of the rocket attacks, that was a total of, in a couple of years, a total of 50,000 rockets.
50,000.
50, yeah. See, the thing that people don't realize, and they talk about, and actually I heard it on Fox a couple of days ago, Gaza is not occupied territory. Last time I was in Israel was in 2005, I left on a Friday, and that Sunday they pulled out of Gaza. Israel hasn't been in Gaza for all that time.
Okay.
But what happened is, and when Ariel Sharon pulled out of Gaza, he always said that if they turned it into a base for terrorism, that he would, basically turn it into a parking lot.
Well,
but what happened is Sharon had 2 strokes and had been brain dead for years.
Right.
And so, that was the bad luck. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the article that I'm looking at from the Jerusalem Post says the Israeli Air Force started to strike targets in Gaza early Friday, because it's already Friday in Israel.
Yes.
About 1:30.
7-hour difference.
In retaliation for 2 rockets that had been fired directly at Tel Aviv Thursday night. I don't know if
you have to understand something.
Okay.
If you're ever in Israel, Tel Aviv is like any European beach town. It is not like Israel, amazingly. And it's one of the big tourist areas. And I think that's what they were gunning for.
People have a tough time figuring this out. Is there, to your knowledge, and I could probably find out, but I'm doing so much stuff right now, can you give us, Israel is about roughly the size of what state here in the United States?
Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. So, folks.
Without the garbage dumps.
Yeah. Can you imagine, folks, that New Jersey is surrounded by enemies who can drop rockets into any of your major cities, like, I don't know, name one in New Jersey, at the drop of a hat at any time? And by the way, if you happen to be in New Jersey, as far as the rest of the world is concerned, any neighboring state dropping rockets into New Jersey is of no consequence. And as a matter of fact, the United Nations kind of supports whoever happens to be dropping rockets into New Jersey. And damn New Jersey if they happen to support themselves or try to, for God's sake, try to defend themselves. And let's say that they have a couple of New Jersey Air Command jets drop some bombs on the neighboring state that sent rockets into New Jersey, and the condemnation would be wild, and that New Jersey is surrounded. Every state that surrounds New Jersey is an enemy and wants to make sure that they get rid of New Jersey.
Oh, wait a second. Isn't that true, though?
Well, yeah. Okay, maybe I should use a different state, but relationship.
New York and New Jersey are always fighting who's better. And it's so totally obviously, and I live in New York, but I'm no big New York thing. But you ever, in any bridge or tunnel goes from New York to New Jersey, You get to go to Jersey for free, but you have to pay to go to New York.
Well, isn't that because New York is so much more superior? Just ask de Blasio.
Take a look at the Statue of Liberty.
Okay.
She's mooning New Jersey.
Ooh, I never thought of it that way.
New York.
Gosh, I never thought of it that way. Well, anyway, any indications whether or not you've been speaking to people from Israel or people that are in the media, any indications as to what Israel may decide to do next on this?
Well, the really hard part is that it was the first set of rockets, and I don't know about the second, was wasn't sent by Hamas. They were sent by a different terrorist group, Islamic Jihad.
All right.
And they probably sent it because Egypt was mediating between Hamas and Israel to have a ceasefire. And they probably did it to screw up the ceasefire. And who knows? It seems like it worked.
I know that Iran and Israel, the relationship has been really tense in the past month or so, to the point where I was thinking and wondering if Israel really was going to do something of great significance to Iran. And I guess luckily at this point that really hasn't corked off. But there was a time about a month or so when I was wondering just what Israel is going to do. And I would suggest don't doubt that Israel isn't doing something already covertly, but I mean overtly, that the rest of the world could see.
Well, I'll tell you a great story.
I always want to hear great stories.
Okay. There was a couple of years ago when Iran was first trying to make weapons-grade uranium.
Okay.
Okay. There was a virus called Stuxnet.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
Okay. And nobody took credit for Stuxnet. However, the main file for Stuxnet was called Murtis. Okay? Now, next week is a Jewish holiday called Purim. And the hero of Purim is someone who became the queen of Persia. Now, you know, Persia became Iran. Right?
Right.
Iran,
yes.
And they wanted to kill all the Jews. And Esther, Queen Esther, you ever heard of the Book of Esther?
Yes.
Okay, stopped them, right?
Right.
Esther's real name, when Esther became queen, she hid the fact that she was Jewish, so she changed her name from Hadassah to Esther. Hadassah in Hebrew, Hadassah is the Hebrew word for myrtle.
Oh.
So that major file was a message to the Iranians, okay, that the Jews were going to defeat Persia again. Did that make any sense?
Yes. And
okay, because I'm going to write about it next week.
Okay. I should also like to point out that Israel does have a history of slipping into countries when they think that they're threatened and taking care of business, so to speak. If we go back to, I think it was 1981, the Osirak reactor was bombed by the Israeli Air Force in Iraq.
And in 2007, they bombed a Syrian reactor that was about to go live. However, they were going to bomb the Iranian ones, but apparently Obama said he'd blow the Israeli planes out of the sky.
Wonderful.
Now, I couldn't understand that because, Obama was so pro-Jewish.
Of all the presidents we've had, he's certainly been the person that, for instance, just happened to put the U.S. Embassy back where it belongs in Jerusalem. Up until Obama, a lot of the presidents were saying that they wanted to do that, but thank God it was Obama that did that on his watch.
Yeah, right.
Oh wait, no, it wasn't Obama. It was President Trump. Imagine that.
Well, don't worry, you were close.
Yeah,
it was Trump, and he came after Obama.
Yeah, it was President 44 instead of President 45. That's right. Okay. Good point. There's so many things that I want to ask you about right now, and we're going to get to a ton of them. Last night on the Chat Show, I discussed with Sackhead's Clint about that Lisa Page bombshell, basically, that the FBI couldn't prove that there was Trump-Russia collusion even before the Mueller appointment, and yet that still went on. There's a guy named John Solomon, and I really enjoy reading his articles.
He is so great.
He writes over at The Hill, and essentially what he was saying is that Lisa Page, who was the attorney for the FBI working in concert for Peter Strzok, she said basically after 9 months of using some of the most incredible surveillance powers that the U.S. intelligence agencies had, the FBI still hadn't made a case connecting Trump or his campaign to Russia's election meddling at all. And she said, and this is a quote, "It still existed in the scope of possibility that there would be literally nothing to connect Trump and Russia, no matter what Mueller or the FBI did." Now, with that in mind, and you told me about this, you came out with an article literally about an hour or so ago, and it's a breaking article over at lidblog.com. And can you tell some of the people what it is that you discovered and the story behind your recent release of a story? And folks, yes, I know I missed the break, but I don't care. It's my show. I get to do that. And we're going to continue to talk to Jeff.
Well, here's the scoop. Okay, we all know that it was McCain who gave the dossier to the FBI.
Yes, it was. And he admitted so.
He admitted so in his book. And his associate, someone who worked for him named David Kaplan, basically he gave it to BuzzFeed.
Right.
This was all known. What we've learned now is that Kaplan had to testify in a lawsuit, and he admitted that basically they were working with Christopher Steele to make sure that everybody had the dossier, from the Washington Post to the New York Times. So they were giving this lie to everybody. Okay, so the new part was that, number one, it wasn't just, we knew that he gave it to BuzzFeed. It was that he gave it to everybody, every media in DC. Well, probably not Fox, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, true. Why would you want to do that?
Right? And what was the other thing? Oh, and that, what was I going to say? Oh, that they actually worked with Steele. They were doing it because Steele told them to.
What you wrote.
So basically, McCain, who I always said was the poster child for term limits, his ego was more important than the country. And he decided that he didn't like Trump, and he was going to go around Washington, D.C. and discredit the man. Okay? But making it even worse, I mean, this is the guy who, at his funeral, he had people get up because he worked on it. He arranged for the funeral before he died and talked to everybody. He wanted to make sure that everybody crapped all over Trump. And they crapped over him for being divisive, if you remember those speeches.
Yes.
Well, I got to tell you something. I think that the most divisive thing that happened since Trump was elected was that McCain basically gave the dossier to everybody, trying to undermine the new presidency.
I believe that's exactly what he was trying to do. I wrote back in 2017, I remember this quote is that John McCain, when he turned the dossier over to the FBI, said that he was doing what any regular citizen would do. That is to say, making sure that he undermines the hell out of that. So what, in kind of a little bit of a nutshell, collusion in 2015, Fusion GPS was hired to do Oppo research on Donald Trump. So Fusion GPS, yes. Well, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. The dossier was bought and paid for by the DNC, Hillary Clinton, the FBI, and what they call a Russian oligarch, which is Oleg Deripaski. All four of those people happened to fund that dossier.
Now, the guy mentioned in the dossier as the Russian trying to make sure that Hillary lost, sued Steele and BuzzFeed and all those guys because he didn't do anything. He's being slandered. And that's how this information came out. Because David Kaplan had to do a deposition.
Well, what happened is Fusion GPS ended up hiring a former British MI6 operative dude named Christopher Steele. That was in the spring of 2016. And it was Steele who wrote that 35-page report on Trump. And Fusion GPS, for those of you who are not aware, is the same group that was hired by Planned Parenthood to put a positive spin on videos that are showing the sale of body parts of babies. So the deal was the information somehow, like air quotes, found itself to the FBI. That wasn't magic. Like Jeff pointed out, that occurred because of Arizona Senator John McCain, who basically in a large way, got this very big hot mess started. So what he ended up doing, I discovered, is that he sent one of his own guys across the Atlantic in order to get Trump's dossier from Steele. He discovered the existence of the dossier when he was at a Canadian meeting with a guy named Sir Andrew Wood, who was a former associate of UK's Tony Blair, who is also not a real big fan of Donald Trump. And so few people up till now have dared to mention the direct involvement, as you pointed out today, Jeff DUNETZ, the direct involvement of Senator John McCain, even if you remember this guy, because he's not really worth remembering much, Bill O'Reilly, who put the media gun to his own head and pulled the trigger. So basically, McCain reiterated again and again that he was happy and he was pleased that he did what any other good American would do. Okay, so in my opinion, I've never been a big fan of John McCain as far as I'm concerned. He had been doing the heavy lifting for the Democrat Party as long as he possibly could. He was slicing and dicing on innuendo and repetition because that's all that he and his fellow Democrats at the time could do. And so he was at what I would consider his obstructionist, feckless best, throwing all the smegma that he possibly could at President Trump because he had a personal dislike for that guy. With McCain, it was personal. He lost the presidential bid against George Bush in 2000. He lost against Obama in 2008. He's been cheated twice. Like you pointed out already, it's all about John McCain and nobody else. Here's another thing. People seem to have forgotten that I have not forgotten that back in 2001, folks, John McCain threatened to leave the Republican Party. And he had talks in 2004 with presidential candidate John Kerry about becoming John Kerry's running mate as vice president. One of the reasons that despite all of his war service, I mostly didn't give a crap about John McCain. As far as I was concerned, he was an underminer. I would have had more respect for John McCain. I don't know how we got into John McCain, but here we are. I would have had more respect for John McCain if he'd just done the smart thing from the very beginning. Dude, just change your R to a D and be done with it. Then I can respect you.
Let me point out one more thing.
Yes, sir.
One of the reasons why John McCain lost in 2008 was he didn't let people point out the true things about Barack Obama, about his preacher, about his connections with the terrorists from the Weathermen, and he wouldn't let people talk about it. But he had to know this dossier stuff was a lie, and he pushed it on America anyway.
Yes, exactly, and that's what.
And let me add one thing.
Yes.
The easiest way to know that the dossier is a lie, okay? Trump is a bit of a germaphobe.
Oh, yes.
Okay, he had to
Yep.
be pushed to start shaking people's hands.
Yep.
Right? And part of the dossier said he liked to do golden showers with hookers he just met.
Yeah, I don't
Now,
think so.
a guy is not going to let someone really isn't comfortable with someone shaking his hands, but is okay with a stranger peeing on him? Come on.
Don't think that's going to happen. He's sort of like the dead orange cat equivalent of Howie Mandel. I don't know if you folks know it, but Howie Mandel does not shake hands. And one of the reasons for that is he's not a big fan of germs. I want to emphasize this and this is directly from Jeff's article today, where you can find it at lidblog.com. The FBI, with the support of the mainstream media, used the bogus dossier in their attempt to discredit Trump and overturn the results of the 2016 election. McCain wasn't accused of helping to create the dossier, but before he passed away, aided by that guy Kramer you were talking about, he made sure that it would hurt the president. Now, while Kramer didn't mention McCain when talking about spreading the dossier to the press as an aide to the senator, he wouldn't have leaked the information without the knowledge and approval of McCain. Kramer handled the press. McCain handled the FBI. And as you write, and this is perfect, this is another example of the cynicism of the late Arizona senator who should be, like you said, be remembered as the poster boy for term limits. Excellent article. Excellent article. Let me go, because we've got about 17 more minutes before the top of the hour break. You went to CPAC. I'm jumping all over the place. You went to CPAC recently. And
Do you know there was a picture of me at CPAC in Time Magazine?
Yes, and by the way, if you didn't notice, folks, for the promotion stuff today on Facebook and also on Twitter, when I was promoting this show specifically with Jeff, that picture in black and white that you're referring to accompanied all my social media for your presence here today, Jeff. Just thought I should tell you that, too, because that's a great photo. I love that. But tell people what it is.
You know how people say that if you wear one of those Make America Great Again hats, you're a racist and anti-Semite?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, I wore a Make America Great Again yarmulke.
You
and
did.
was waiting for anybody to accuse me of being anti-Semitic.
You did.
And Time Magazine, I guess, they got a kick out of it.
I'm going to see if I think I have a picture of that. Oh, darn it, I don't. I thought I had one on my phone.
My wife was very happy it didn't show my face.
Well, I don't know. I think it was very nice.
Well, because, you know, I'm my Long Island Jewish community isn't very big on conservatism.
Okay.
Although the Long Island Jewish Star, the paper I wrote for, put a four-color picture of me in the yarmulke in their paper.
Yeah. Can you give us sort of an overall impression of CPAC? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think you also wrote an article about why you thought that CPAC 2019 was different from all the other CPACs. So in your inestimable estimation, why was 2019 CPAC different?
For two reasons. Number one, it was an in-between year, so there are tons of candidates coming up and saying hello and introducing themselves to the bloggers. And because we just missed the midterms, we just passed the midterms, that didn't happen. But it's interesting because I've never seen this before. I was broadcasting from Radio Row with Ken McClanton.
Oh, yeah, I saw a photograph of you with Ken, yes.
And so I got to see everybody who was walking through CPAC. And there were a lot of people wearing yarmulkes.
Well, then you certainly you had the most unique.
Well, yeah, but what I found astounding was, and they also had a lot of Jewish and Israel topics.
Okay.
But what I found astounding is it's almost as if the conservative movement is finally realizing that some Jews are an opportunity. Obviously not the liberal ones.
No.
And CPAC usually is a leading indicator. And they certainly were this year.
There's a new article that just came out, and then I want to transition after this to an article that you wrote, because I think this one that I'm going to go to next, you were disturbed. You were very seriously disturbed about what you witnessed occur with the Democrats. But this is from drrichswire.com, and it came out today. The article says, Aide to Senator Bernie Sanders questions loyalty of Jewish Americans. So,
and that aide is an illegal immigrant.
So that, to me, says that I have never seen this outward. In some fashions, it's actually outward. It's hate, ranging from dislike to just abject hate. But there was an article, and these things just keep coming. I think this is the one that really, really got to you. And if I'd like to read I'd like to read the first paragraph, maybe the first and second paragraph. Because when I read this article, I was affected because I know you, and I know how painful and personal it is for you. You wrote this back on March 8th, and that was back when the whole thing with Omar was going on. And the headline of the article is, The Democrats Make It Official, Jews Don't Matter. So you wrote, to be honest, it more than hurts. It's created a pit in my stomach that won't go away. I'm usually able to separate my emotions from the goings-on in D.C., but this was different. I am terrified of the future. It wasn't a political loss. It was a statement by the Democratic Party. In a 407-23 vote, the Democratic Party led House of Representatives that me, my wife, my two kids, and the other 6,850,860 Jews living in the United States of America do not matter. Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat from Minnesota, made her second anti-Semitic declaration in the past month. To address her hatred, the spineless Democratic Party leadership couldn't muster the courage to stand up to Omar's anti-Semitism. Instead, they passed a generic resolution that basically said that being mean to others is a bad thing. And you wrote, really? I learned that lesson when I was a child watching programs like Romper Room or Howdy Doody or Captain Kangaroo. As for the Jew-hating Representative Omar, she not only voted for the measure but celebrated it as a step towards fighting Islamophobia. So let me stop here. She made it not about the Jews or about her anti-Semitism. Now she turned it again and made it's all about fighting Islamophobia. So Omar and the other anti-Semites in the Democratic Party celebrated it. Ooh, an indication they took the vote as a sign that Jew hatred is just fine. So it was personal. It was personal with you.
Well, yeah. The interesting thing is, and the week after, or a couple of days after, I looked at my old articles. In January 2007 was the first time I started writing that the Democrats were becoming anti-Semitic. Okay? So it isn't Omar. Okay? It's really when Trump said that the Democrats have become the anti-Jewish party, he wasn't exaggerating.
No, and isn't that weird that a lot of the things that Trump has said in his own language, in whatever stilted turn of phrase he uses, a lot of that crap turns out to be true?
Well, it hurts. And one of the reasons why it hurts is because still no one's reporting about it. Still, the media made fun of Trump when he said that, okay? But the party, one of the two major parties in the United States, is really anti-Semitic. I mean, we had 8 years of the most anti-Semitic president in my lifetime.
Okay, can I stop you right there? Because I want people to understand that from your perspective. Give me the illustrations that indicate in your mind that Barack Hussein Obama was not a friend of the Jews and was not a friend of Israel for 8 years.
I don't care that he wasn't a friend of Israel. When he was selling the Iran deal, he had a meeting with the so-called Jewish leaders, all the liberal leaders of the Jewish organizations. And he basically said, well, you know, the people fighting this are the same people that got us into the Iraq war, the Jews. Okay? That's something that Pat Buchanan said. Okay? And when someone asked him, well, are you talking about the Jews? He goes, well, you know, Netanyahu said that we should get into Iraq. Well, guess what? I said we shouldn't. And guess what? I had the same rank in America that he had in Israel. Both of us were private citizens. He wasn't the prime minister at the time. The prime minister at the time wrote a letter to Bush saying, don't do it. If you do, okay, Hussein is the only check on Iran. And if you get rid of him, then what's going to happen is Iran will be taking over the region. That happened. So that's an example. Okay, you look at. Do you know that one of the people that was in the White House more than anybody, giving him advice, was Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton led 2 anti-Semitic riots in New York City. That doesn't matter.
You may as well have had Louis Farrakhan log in to the White House that many times.
Or his first, when you look at the people he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom was, the first 2 were a woman named by the name of Mary Robinson, who led a UN conference supposedly about fighting racism. And the thing turned out to be an anti-Semitic thing, where they were handing out posters that said, you know, Hitler should have killed them all. and they were just giving out the what do you call it? The elders of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. A classic anti-Semitic book. And he gave her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Okay, that to me is an indication that he was anti-Semitic. Look, I want people to be pro-Israel, but sometimes when you're pro-Israel, you don't have to support Israel to be in this country, but you can't go cross the line and be anti-Semitic when you do it. And that's my issue. Anti-Semitism. You got to divide the two. Like there's this BDS movement, okay, which is boycott, divestment, and I don't even remember what the S is, okay, and sanction. The purpose of that movement is to delegitimize Israel. And they talk about a one-state solution, meaning that they want Israel overrun by every Muslim in the neighborhood so that Israel will be destroyed via democracy. Because everybody votes in Israel. Okay, so basically what they're saying is the state of Israel, that Jews have no right for self-determination. Well, if you ask the State Department, even under Obama, if you look at their definition of anti-Semitism, if you say that Jews have no right to self-determination, that's anti-Semitic. Oh, and the Pope said so too.
There are a couple of interesting points in chat. The Alaskan said the KKK was born by the Democrats, and they've been against the Jews. And he made this point, and you and I have spoken about this before, but the Alaskan says, I never understood why Jews are in the Democratic Party to begin with.
Well, until the early 60s, they weren't welcome in the conservative world. That's part of it. Okay? The conservative world was very anti-Semitic until really until the National Review started publishing, and William F. Buckley threw out the anti-Semites from the party. He even wrote a couple of articles about how anti-Semitic Pat Buchanan was. So it was really William F. Buckley who turned the conservative movement around. Okay, so you're talking about people who most of their family. I mean, if you go through my family, my ancestors, except for my father, they were all Democrats. My father didn't think that. My father thought that big government sucked. So he taught me well.
He did. He did indeed.
But really, that's why. And and I think that also that many Jews they get the Bible wrong. Okay, just like other religions, we're commanded to give a lot of charity and things like that.
Right.
And to be nice to widows and orphans, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a personal responsibility, not a government responsibility.
Yes, very, very
and that's
true.
where they miss it. And even in the beginning, and for those of you who aren't Jewish, you still know the Old Testament. It says that man was created in God's image. Or God created man in his image, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that we all look like God, because if that was the case, all the CSI shows would be boring because everyone had the same DNA, right?
Yes.
And certainly our driver's licenses would look all the same. What it means is that God is able to choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing, but he chooses the right thing. He gave man that same ability. Okay, so basically what Genesis is saying when it says created in God's image is basically God believes in small government. He's not going to rule you by making you do what he wants you to do. He gave us all the choice to think about it and do the right thing.
Yes, exactly. Free will.
Right?
We're
Free
running.
will is the biblical version of limited government.
Okay, all right. I see that linkage. We're up against the break, but I want to introduce one more story that you wrote before we hit the break. And you wrote this earlier today, before the other story we just spoke about. And I think this provides a light at the head of at the end of the tunnel, if you will. Jeff at lidblog.com. Folks, we're talking to Jeff DUNETZ of lidblog.com. Earlier today, he wrote, Minnesota Democratic leaders looking to oust Representative Omar, who, like AOC and Rashida Tlaib, they've only been in there for 3 months. So it's a late-night show, and I get to say this. So already the Democrat leaders in Minnesota are tired of her bullshit. In summary, Jeff wrote, upset at her public anti-Semitic statements, there are Minnesota Democrat Party leaders that are already working to recruit candidates to run against Representative Ilhan Omar in next year's primary election. To that I would say, great. The Hill is reporting that several party leaders, quote, have had discussions about finding a candidate to take on Omar just 2 months into her first term in Congress. It's extremely rare for party leaders to try and primary an incumbent. Any thoughts about that, Jeff?
But go to the end.
Okay. Un momento, senor.
When I talk about who is the congressperson before her?
But you say keep in mind that before Omar, Minnesota's 5th Congressional was represented by Keith Ellison, a former friend and defender of Louis Farrakhan, the featured keynote speaker at many anti-Semitic BDS organization events. So when push comes to shove, the rank-and-file Democrats in her district may be very comfortable with Omar's anti-Semitism. Good point. Okay,
that is the point.
I'm deflated.
But the other point is that one of the Democratic leaders set up a meeting with all the Jewish leaders in her district at his house. And basically what they said was, we're not going to try to change your opinions about Israel, but we want to teach you what the buzzwords are and the dog whistles are, so the way you say it isn't hurtful.
Okay. So just massage it. Just massage it a little bit. That's all.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. You can mean it. You can mean it from your heart as much and as long as you want, but just don't let it spill out quite so much, girly. Not quite so much spillage.
Don't say it's the rich Jews buying Congress, or don't say that Jews have a dual loyalty. Those are two of the biggest, for want of a better word, dog whistles.
Well, that's what she said.
They're not really dog whistles, because when I say those, my dog doesn't come. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, but that's what she said. And people who tried to dissemble on that and say that, she's new to this country and she's not exactly sure how all these words work. My immediate reply to that is bullshit, because she's been here for 22 years. She's been here for 22 years. She knows how this stuff works.
And she got a lesson less than a year ago.
Yep.
So is she an idiot? No. I don't think I think she's very smart.
Yes.
And knows exactly what she's doing.
Yes, knows what she's saying, and sometimes it just comes out. I
think she knows that she has much of the Democratic Party on her side.
Yes.
So she's never going to be, really ostracized for it.
No, here's what I think that she's doing, and a lot of other people like her are doing, AOC's doing, and Rashida Tlaib are doing. They're pushing the envelope to see where that envelope exists, to see where it ends. And where it ends today is not going to be where it ends tomorrow or next week or the other day. They're going to keep pushing and find out, well, what's that? Is there a sweet spot where I'm going to get so much pushback that I'm going to have to reconsider? And if there is no pushback, she's not going to stop.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the guy who said that Guam would tip over, Hank Johnson?
Hank Johnson. Great guy.
Right.
Highly intelligent. Love him.
At the Democratic Convention in 2016, Hank called the Jews termites.
Oh, good. So not only is he, on order with a rock in terms of intelligence, he's also anti-Semitic. Great. Good to know.
Well, what I'm saying is they attacked Arakan for it, but what people learned is that he won't be ostracized by the party. Maxine Waters, who we all know got away with letting her husband steal money from the government to protect his bank, but she blamed her grandson, believe it or not. I have her on video saying that, I won't deal with APAC because they control too much of the Congress.
Right.
That's not any different than what Khalib said.
No, it's like
what Omar said.
It's the continuing phrase of it's the Jews. It's the Jews that are responsible.
And the crazy part is they all. And here's the part that gets me. In 2010, when I exposed Helen Thomas, okay, when I wrote about that video and broke the story, within 10 minutes, people were saying it was she got in trouble for saying something bad about Israel. She didn't say something bad about Israel. She said the Jews should go back to Germany and Poland. Okay? That's not Israel. That's like telling you to go back to the Holocaust. Okay? But even today, they say that she got in trouble for saying things about Israel. And then a couple of months later, she did a speech in Dearborn, Michigan, where she said, she actually came out and said that the Jews control the banks, the Congress, the media. Let me tell you something. If we control the media, I would be getting a lot more hits than I do.
Right. You'd be sitting in the lunchroom with Jeff Bezos.
Well, yeah. And I got to tell you.
You'd have a key to the executive washroom. Well, that's true.
Well, no, I don't use the executive washroom because, my wife has her office in the house also, so it means that, that's the executive washroom, the two executives.
Jeff DUNETZ, can you tell people where you can be found in your social media, pretty please?
At Yid with Lid on Twitter. And God honest, I don't know where I am on Facebook, but I'm there. And I'm usually in the penalty box anyway. And the big thing is lidblog.com. And if you find something you like, please share it, because the more traffic I get, it's my income.
Yep, exactly. Folks, we were talking to Jeff DUNETZ, lidblog.com, lidblog.com, on any of his social media. Like it, follow him, and then share his information. And just if people are motivated to do so, is there a point on your site somewhere where if they want to throw, a couple of buckages towards you that they might be able to do that?
Nope.
Or do you just your thing is if you get the clicks and the links, that's what does it for you, basically?
Well, click on an ad.
Okay.
then that's what does it for me.
Okay, got it. Jeff, thank you ever so kindly, folks. That was Jeff DUNETZ.
Thank you.
Appreciate it for staying up so
You're
late.
one of the good people the good things about working on the internet, meeting people like you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not trying to back you up into a corner or anything, but do you anticipate coming back to the air?
I'm really trying. It's really all technical problems. It really is. You said I bought another interface and microphones and things like that,
Okay.
and the bottom line is it's Spreaker.
Oh, okay. All right.
Spreaker and Skype. I have problems. They won't work. It's because I have a Mac.
Okay. I was going to go there, but you went there first, so I don't feel so bad.
Well, I mean, but I can't buy another computer, so I got to figure out a way to use it with what I have.
All right, folks, Jeff DUNETZ. It's my show, so I get to determine when and where the breaks are. And
Easy, be well.
it's 12 minutes after midnight on the far right coast. So, Jeff, again, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here live, and thanks for being here so late.
Wait a second.
What?
It's March 15th?
Yes, it is.
The Ides of March? Remember? Did not great Julius bleed for justice sake? What? Shall one of us that struck down the foremost man of all this world, but for supporting robbers, shall we now contaminate our fingers with base bribes and sell the mighty space of our large honor for so much trash as may be grasped thus? I would rather be a dog and bay the moon than such a Roman. Sorry, I played Brutus and Julius Caesar, and I have to do it once on March 15th.
You should. And maybe I should wrap up with this phrase. A2, Jeff? A2?
Yeah, and that was
Conservative
also
media done
when I
right.
used to audition
You're
for
listening
Yale.
to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff DUNETZ. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff DUNETZ.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that was Jeff DUNETZ for the first hour. Except it turned out to be more than an hour because I'm just now taking my top of the hour break. But it's my show and I get to do that. So it's 17 minutes after the hour. If you happen to be on the far left coast, that means, like me, that means it's 9:17, and it's 12:17 on the far right coast, east coast, and it's 17:59 and 17.72325 seconds, subcluster 3, paragraph 4 in Bolivia. Bolivian time is in fact messed up that way. In chat, the Alaskan says, BZ, you need to do a pre-show checklist that makes sure that the lava lamp gets fired up 2 hours before the show. Well, that's true. That is true. Because if you look at the lava lamp now, it's actually functioning. But the dealio about the lava lamp is the only thing that makes this thing go is a little light that's under there. And if the light gets sufficiently warm, then yeah, sure, it can melt the wax and get all the robular stuff going on. Hey, maybe you might want to turn on the light over there so we can see, because otherwise it's awfully dark in here. Do you want to do the?
I don't know. Give me a visual.
The light thing.
Let me see. Turn the camera over.
Okay. All right. Let me go. You want to see what the split screen things looks like?
Oh yeah. No, this is actually probably perfect.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? It's all right.
Okay.
Can you turn my headphones up a smidge?
Sure. Sadite. Tell me when.
Oh, that's perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Now, folks, in the promos for tonight's show, I said there may be. It's magic. Never believe it's not. What? Whiskey, bourbon?
Little High West. Rye.
High West?
Yes, rye.
Never. You're a rye fellow anyway, with a wry sense of humor.
I like my whiskey. I like my bourbon. I like my rye.
One bourbon. One
George
shot,
Thorogood. Unbelievable.
Do.
Such a great song.
Went to George Thorogood. See, I've seen him 3 times.
Have you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know it's shocking to think that he does the same show.
No, no new material whatsoever? How is that even possible?
Anyway, George Thorogood.
He has so many new hit singles.
He does. Okay, I have got some great stories. Folks, if you do not already know, I said that I was hoping that maybe our good friend, the co-owner of SHR, Sackhead Sean, would be here tonight. And it turns out that he, in fact, is here for the second hour.
Yeah, I was up the street having dinner. I figured I'd stop in and say hi. I have a great dinner story.
Oh, well, just like on the Shat Show, I always want to hear Clint stories. If you have a great Sackhead Sean story, I always want to hear a good Sackhead Sean story.
Anyone who knows SHR, by the way, it's my first appearance at Redcon, so thank you to the Sarge and all the folks over at Redcon.
Yep. Oh, by the way,
yes,
I pointed out earlier, if you look at this thing over here and you look at the lower corner of our screen right here, that's where we usually get all of our penalties.
Not once.
When we're screwing up. Yeah. That's not happening.
Outstanding. My work was solid today.
So your work was solid today.
Does my nose look too big? Anyhow.
No. Well, wait a minute. In this chair, is my big ass... Well, I think the proper question is, does my big ass make my ass look big?
Well, I just want to make sure the camera angle is right so my nose doesn't look huge. But it looks pretty decent.
Okay.
But I'm normally not paranoid about that. It must be this chair.
You mean like other people.
Other people. Anywho...
Okay. All right.
So I go up the street. There's a place called The Shack. Great sandwiches, great fried food. It's just a little. They serve beer, wine. They don't serve any hard alcohol.
Is that the place that you and I wanted to go to? But
it was closed that one day.
Yes, but we couldn't get into it.
Literally right up the street.
Okay.
They have these deep fried macaroni and cheese balls that are just friggin' amazing. Awesome. But all their food's really good. They have some great, cool, like just different. Anyhow, I'm sitting at their quote unquote bar having a beer.
I didn't know they had a bar.
Dinner. Yeah, it's a beer place. It's got a ton of beer on tap. It's a really cool little place.
Beer and mac and cheese.
Yeah.
What
you can't even
what
beat
a
it.
combo.
Can't even beat it. Anyhow, so I'm sitting there. Everyone who knows me, Redcon, I'm originally from Boston, born and raised. It's just who I am. So Red Sox hat on, having a beer, eating my food, and I can hear the accent a couple stools up. I kind of look.
Not like your sweatshirt or your hat isn't broadcasting.
Right.
In 50,000 watts, clear channel.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
But I'm minding my own business. I'm just out. I was just trying to grab dinner. I knew I was going to make an appearance here with you, so I was trying to rush through it. And all of a sudden, a guy turns and he looks at me, guy who's got the obvious Boston accent. And he says, you a Red Sox fan? Because he sees the hat first.
Right.
From the side profile, he doesn't see the shirt.
Okay.
And I said, yeah. He's like, oh. And then he tries to kind of flex a little bit. He's like, yeah, I was born and raised in Boston. Just like that.
And clearly you were impressed.
Anyone who knows me knows that I have 2 avenues in life. I can either go the nice guy route or the full asshole route, right? So I was like, no shit, me too. And I said, but nobody's born and raised in Boston. I said, you're born and raised in East Boston. You're born and raised in Southie. You're Alston, Brighton. You're Back Bay. I said, you're from the North Shore. You're from the South Shore. I said, so for you to say Boston, you're used to dealing with people from the West Coast.
Aren't you?
And he went stone-faced for a minute. So I says, where are you from? And he's like, actually, I was born and raised in Revere. Revere is just north of Boston, next town north of East Boston. It's also the city next to the city that I grew up in. And I said, no shit, I'm from Malden. Well, you would have thought I had just given him the winning lottery ticket. In the sea of Californians, right? His face lit up. Older guy, probably 50,
Yeah, my age.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, if we're going to tell lies. And he gets up and he walks over and he just hugs me. Out of the blue. Hugs me.
Nice.
Full on hug. And he's like, oh, brother, it's great to meet somebody else from back home. So we start talking. Well, we realize we know a lot of the same people. His name is Stevie Fitz. First and foremost, meet somebody from Boston and they're Irish and the name's Steve. It's Stevie. They don't go
Okay.
by Steve.
All right, Stevie.
Every guy named Steve I've ever known who's Irish, Steve Connolly, Steve, it's always Stevie. And even some of the French Bostonians. And his name's Stevie Fitzpatrick. And I said, that's funny. I know you. He said, really? I was like, well, I know about 15 of yous. Because I know about 15 guys named Stevie Fitzpatrick. You have Red Fitz. You have all these different Fitzes. And I'll tell you what. By the time I walked out, it was like we grew up together. And I say all the time about the city I grew up in and how close we are and how you can be anywhere in the world. If you find somebody from Boston, that connection's always just strong. And like I said, by the time and the only reason I left is because I promised you I'd make an appearance. It was like being at home. Oh, we bullshitted about everything. Politics, the Red Sox, Patriots, what trades, Bruins, this, that, and the other thing. It was like sitting in a bar back home, which I haven't experienced in a long time. And he's like my new best friend. I'll see you next week, he says. We're talking about beaches, and I know the beach that his daughter was grabbed in an undertow, and he had to go out. And you know the undertow at that beach, it sucks in Marblehead, blah, 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 blah. And all these people are just watching us, and it's like we're speaking in a different tone, a different language altogether.
So all the lefties in the bar, if there were a bunch, and it's California, so what the hell?
Yeah.
Now were all the heads and necks swiveling around, going, and in their little, their nose up kind of attitude, we're saying, I wonder what language those guys are talking.
What are those two assholes going on about? Well, and politics was short because you got to catch up on all the shit that we missed from back east, right? So Kelly's roast beef. Oh, God, I'd kill for a fucking Kelly's. Can you believe the Hilltop closed? What assholes would close the Hilltop? It's been there for 50 years, for God's sakes. Frank Guido, and we just went on and on about all these different changes that have come because there's one thing Bostonians hate is fucking change. And I laughed because when I went back and I found out the Hilltop closed, I died a little bit until it was a steak place in Saugus.
Son of a...
And it was one of the best steak places, even if the steak wasn't great. I can remember as a kid, you'd go there and the line would be out the door. And I don't mean like 12 people out the door. I mean like 150 people deep. And the restaurant was so big that you get through that in about an hour. But just different things like that. And I just die because that's the conversations I have with people back home all the time. And the fact that this guy was out of the blue, he's about 10 years older than me. We don't know each other from Adam, but we knew some of the same people. We used to hang out at the same places. He actually lived in Malden for a few years, so I talked to, Mount Vernon Street. Oh, shit, Mount Vernon Street. I dated a girl when I was a teenager on Mount Vernon Street, blah, 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 for an hour.
And so the people around you are going, Mindy, are you... Are you? I'm only getting about every third word they're saying.
Oh, and everything out of our mouth is fuck this and fuck that and these motherfuckers and just nonstop, just as loud as humanly possible. I hadn't even been drinking much. I had 2 beers. It's funny how much louder I get as soon as I'm in that environment. Yeah, it was nice. It was like taking a quick trip home at dinner.
But you got to admit, it's kind of an East Coast thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
It's, okay, 2 points. It's an East Coast thing. Mm-hmm. And it's specifically a Boston thing.
There's a lot of camaraderie amongst people from Boston. It's funny, and I will say this, that people in Boston do a good job. Obviously, I'm a huge conservative. People in Boston do a good job of putting politics aside when you're talking about the home country. Because we still experience a lot of the same things. Oh, I can remember going here. I saw this group. I saw that. Oh, you remember Jim Plunkett? Yeah, I've seen Jim Plunkett play 15 times. Not the football player, but the actual musician who is a local musician all over Boston. Now let's talk about Jim Plunkett, who's the football player. Yeah. It just goes on and on. Because there's a pride. It's a weird pride that we have in Boston of like, I don't know you from a fucking hole in the wall. I don't know you. I wouldn't piss on you if you're on fire. Until I found out you're from Boston. And then I'll feed you kids if I have to.
Instant friend.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Shirt.
It's just,
I saw you look at my shirt. Hey, I don't need a hoodie right here.
Yeah.
Are you cold?
Are you chilly right now?
Do you need a hoodie?
Yeah,
I can do that
God.
for you. How about this hat? Do you kind of like the hat?
We wear scally caps, which I don't know what the rest of the country calls them. I really don't.
Scally caps.
A very Irish, Scottish, almost like the golf cap, where it's short on the sides and it pins down to the front. It's got the little button in it.
Oh, okay.
And it comes to the brim. I, for the life of me, don't know what it's called. We always called them scally caps.
Okay.
That's just what we. So of course he's wearing.
Are they like the caps that I wear sometimes?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Always called them scally caps.
Okay.
And I know there's a more English name for it that I'm not going to use, but we literally talked about.
I call them British driving caps. What's the term that you have?
Scally cap.
Okay, all right. Scally cap works.
We
for
talked
me.
about where we could buy good scally caps online because you can't get any out here. That's how serious it got.
The ones as a bit of trivia, folks. The ones. See, you're making me. It's okay. Someday before, I don't know, maybe a month, within the next month or two or something like that, on the air, you and I are going to have to sit down. We might not last 2 hours, okay, but maybe for an hour we'll have to shoot the shit and knock down our favorite drinks.
Absolutely.
Because I'm looking at that over there and I'm going, all right, where's my vodka?
Oh, yeah, no, shame on you.
I don't see any vodka.
I always hide booze in the
studio.
studio.
I don't know. I didn't know we were playing that today.
I have Tito's hidden in the studio if you want a glass of Tito's. I know you're kind of one guy.
I gotta drive another half hour though when I get through with here.
It's just a small one.
So, in attempted honor of this, I lined up some stories
outstanding
that I thought would be kind of amusing.
Are we just gonna blast through to the
some
end?
of them? Yeah, well, fuck it.
Even being the owner, look at me. Couple cocktails in me. I'm the owner. I'm still looking at the time. Like, fuck, BZ, you have a contract.
My shameless contract.
Shameless.
So
one.
we can do it this way. I've been late or skipped every promo
tonight
that I had because I wanted to have Jeff on.
It's going to get a demerit, but go ahead.
So I know. It'll come out of my shameless check. But I was thinking, let's play the show like I customarily play the show, and let's go here for a little bit.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Always a great.
Yeah,
a great segment.
This came out of the New York Post, and just the headline alone is this is great because all these tards brought this crap on themselves.
How many times can we say that?
From the New York Post, transgender boy wins girls' state wrestling title for second time. How do you do that? Okay, number one, I got to tell everybody, all right, this is a New York Post story, but this happens in Texas. Okay, Texas is not a purple state. They're trying to push it purple.
But they're not purple yet.
It's still red. Just thinking that. This came out of Cypress, Texas. But, okay, first time, okay, weird.
Depending on who's in the chat room, they're going to be pissed right now.
Second time, Iggy Mom and the Alaskan. I don't think cares.
No, it's who is it? A couple of weeks ago, we said Texas might be purple, and was it ACOG? Somebody went absolutely.
It might have been ACOG, or maybe it was Dan masquerading as somebody.
Oh, yeah, somebody went absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think it might have been Dan.
Said you're importing them
under a pseudonym. So it says for the second time in a row, a transgender wrestler has won the Texas Girls Class 6A 110-pound division. This is right out of the article. Mac Beggs. Jesus.
Frank.
Mac Beggs, an 18-year-old senior from Euless Trinity High School near Dallas, entered the tournament in Cypress outside Houston with an undefeated record. He, pronoun, from the story, he beat Chelsea Sanchez, whom he beat for the title in 2017 in the final match on Saturday.
Oh, she must be pissed.
Video posted online showed a mix of cheers and boos from the crowd following Beggs' win. Beggs is in the process of transitioning from female to male.
Still has a penis.
And taking a low dose of testosterone. It was his steroid therapy treatments while wrestling girls that stirred a fierce debate about competitive fairness and transgender rights and blah, 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 blah.
So, God, this is such a slippery slope. Because the little L in me, the little libertarian in me, I have a hard time saying I don't give a shit what people do in their own life. Look, if you're a dude and you have a beard like this or like you and you're 6'3" and you want to wear a sundress
Yeah, go ahead.
Go right the fuck ahead.
You're not going to be working at Nordstrom.
I don't care.
But yeah,
I
you
really
can,
don't
You
care.
can do it.
Just like, and I have, by the way, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize how many gay and lesbian conservatives there are out there. But that's I have this conversation with them.
Yep.
As well. Because as soon as I find out everything, it's like, all right, we have to converse because I'm an on-air personality. I have to know more. And I say all the time, I don't believe that the government should give a shit what you do behind your closed doors. As long as everyone's of like mind, nobody's getting hurt.
Everyone pays taxes. Everybody has a job.
I don't
everybody
care. Love who you want to love.
Everybody contributes.
Not my problem. I love who you want to love. Blah, 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 blah. To my religious friends who have a tendency to hold back on this, I say all the time, I'm like, look, if you believe in the Bible and you believe in God, we're not supposed to judge each other, right? Only God will judge. So, as long as they're not hurting anybody,
two consenting adults,
then this is where I step back and I say, nope, they have the right to be who they want to be. Now, when you start getting into competitive sports with males, females, transgender,
this is what
bathrooms,
this is what I love.
All the other stuff. You are what you are as a gender. I don't believe in sexual fluidity.
You're an XX or you're an XY.
Right. Now, if you're a guy and you like other guys, you're a gal, you like other gals. If you're a girl and you like a guy and a gal, whatever, that's different. But to have a penis and say, I get to pee in the girls' room is a no-no, in my opinion. Not because I want to stifle your ability to wear a dress and call yourself Susie, but out of respect to the women who go into that restroom and or enter that competitive sport expecting to fight another female or race against another female, in which the playing ground, the field is level. When we talk about the left and the equality for women and women need to be equal, blah, 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 blah. Yes. And I've said this time and again, I believe strong women are beautiful. I have no problem with if a woman becomes anything. I've never been that guy. I have two strong sisters, a strong mom. I was raised a lot different to know better. All three of them could kick my ass to this day.
And I've met your mom.
Yeah. She's a bitch. Love her to death, but she'll kill you if you get in the way.
I love her, but you're right.
Yeah,
she's not a weakling.
No, by no means. And she'll beat up some dudes, but she's not going to get into a race with them, or because there's a separation between the sexes. And a lot of female athletes are starting to come out and say, hey, look, we know that males are stronger than we are, which is why we compete against other females. We compete within our own class. There are some women who absolutely have the ability to do some male competitive stuff. That is by far the exception to the rule. I go back to Jenny Finch, the softball player, striking out Major League Baseball players. She was the exception to the rule. She was an amazing softball pitcher who did a lot of wonderful things with it. She was an amazing athlete, amazing human being. But the simple fact of the matter is when it comes to physicality, when it comes to sports, when it comes to anything physical, not mental, and I'm not talking about military, law enforcement, police, anything like that, because I believe that look, if you're a female and you want to get into combat, if you can pass the same things as the male, God love you. I'm talking about competitive sports. When males are in a different class, not a better class, a different class, for a reason. Now, if you want to start injecting testosterone into other females who want to be a male but are still competing on the female side, I equate that to Barry Bonds using steroids in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
He had an advantage. I say this all the time. If Barry Bonds wasn't do steroids, he may have been the doubles leader of all times in Major League Baseballs and maybe not have hit all the home runs that he hit. I'm not saying he wasn't an exceptional at putting the bat on the ball. Absolutely. But that ball may not have gone as far.
Yep.
The same example I use here.
Because that's strength versus hand-eye coordination.
Right.
Yep.
I'm not saying he didn't have amazing hand-eye coordination. He was a talented fielder in his youth. He was. As he got older, he was essentially a DH. But, but he would have led the Major League Baseball in doubles for all time, but they wouldn't have gone over the wall. Same thing here with this female transition in the male that's receiving testosterone shots. You've changed. You're doing steroids. And as far as that competition is viewed, you're doing steroids. Now,
which under other conditions you're not supposed to do.
If it was a female using HGH and she pissed dirty, she would have been expelled from that competition.
You're out of there.
And that's the thing. We have to stop making rule changes because somebody identifies as something. This has nothing to do with who you love, how you love. This has to do with, look, I can't identify as a black female when it's convenient for me for whatever reason. Or a black female should be able to identify as a white male when it's convenient. We're all supposed to be equal. We're all moving towards equality amongst races. Gender equality as far as everyone makes the same. This person can do whatever they want to do in life. But when it comes to competitive sports, we can get into some other caveats. But competitive sports especially, and to these teenage gals who've busted their ass to be the number one wrestler in the state, potentially to go to college, and I'm not saying she's not going to,
on a scholarship.
On that scholarship.
Now you're talking cash now.
Maybe Olympiad. Right? I mean, there's a lot. What comes after? If you're a very successful, if you're a very successful Olympian, what happens afterwards? You become an instructor, a motivational speaker. You can make a lot of money off that route as well. You're now taking all that away because Christine is shooting up with steroids and wants to be called Chris. That's not fair to the other people in that competition. We're talking about equality and fairness. Well, what about all them? Why is it that we will push aside the masses to raise a few? That's not how it's supposed to work.
No, that's not how it's supposed to work. I take umbrage under that because of my background. Mm-hmm. I worked sex assaults, and I also worked in child abuse. And there have been incidents, just as people feared, where people were taking advantage of a situation like that to go in and do whatever it is that they do in terms of eyeballing women or actually beginning to grope women or children while they're in the various bathrooms.
I use this as an example. You go to a bar and you look for any female who has a drink. She goes to use the restroom. What does she do? She puts a cover over her drink, something on the cover, and says to the bartender, hey, do me a favor, make sure nobody messes with my drink. Why? Because she knows there are those deviants out there that will drop something in her drink and take advantage of that. Well, that same comfort of covering their drink, they expect to have in the bathroom. They should be able to go in and freely use that restroom and not have to worry that some... And I'm not even saying that it's going to be a transgender, somebody who identifies specifically as a transgender.
No, it's going to be somebody that I'm not on this earth because of my background. I don't inherently trust people.
Yep. It's the dude who's like, you know what? I can wear a dress and go in there. And now while she's peeing with her pants down, I can take advantage of that situation.
Sure. If nothing else, I can get an eyeful. It can fulfill whatever fantasy I have in my brain and a lot more.
What's the old adage about justifying safety for freedom?
Oh,
right.
Yeah. You never,
you don't sacrifice.
No, God, that.
You never sacrifice freedom for security because you'll get neither.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing right here. You're sacrificing people's security to gain freedoms, and you're gaining neither because you're making another dangerous situation.
It was created. It was a situation that was created that didn't need to be created. Here's another story because you
said Olympics.
You said Olympics. Damn you for saying that. Olympics will allow transgender competitors for 2018 Winter Games. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, made a decision recently and said that they are going to allow transgender athletes to compete in whatever category they wish to compete in during the 2018 Winter Olympics. They said they're not going to require athletes to compete in categories that match their birth gender, nor will there be any gender or sex testing of competitors ahead of the games.
So I immediately go to ice skating. People can be like, whoa, what? But more often than not, competitive ice skating, the biggest difference between the males and the females is the amount of height and rotation and torque in the jumps. The sow cows, the luts, all that. People are probably spinning their heads right now that I would even be discussing this slightly. But
why does a guy from Boston
know anything about this? Because I grew up, everyone
on.
ice skated, so you know things about this. And I watch the Olympics. I enjoy the Olympics. But that was the biggest difference. So now you have a female who can maybe do a 2.5 or a 3 going into any of the jumps, any of the rotations, any of the spins. And now a male, and they don't even have to identify as a female. They can just be a dude who's going to say, I'm going to compete with the girls. And now go in and bangs out a 4.5, lands it, and blows all these other gals out of the water. Meanwhile, they're the best females in the world who are doing this specific sport.
Well, and let's be mindful of the fact that
so
there
why
are a
don't
lot
we
of
just
things
get rid
that-
of all genders?
Well, it's interesting that you should mention that, because also in chat, Alaskan says, hey, why don't we just do away, completely eliminate all Title IX
It's just
crap.
who the best is the best.
It's just you're the best. If you're the best in sports, then that's it.
And winter sports, there's definitely some places that women could absolutely still win. You get snowboarding, a couple of the other ones where there's no advantage of being a male versus female. Okay.
No. Skiing, I don't see that there would be necessarily.
As a matter of fact, I would say it's the exact
a great
opposite.
advantage. You're going to have people that are going to be maybe slighter of frame that'll be able to maneuver on skis with a lot greater alacrity than some big dude.
You could go a lot biathlon. Have you ever watched female biathlon? Some of them are way better than dudes. I mean,
yeah.
So there's some sports where it won't matter, but when you get into more of the traditional Olympic sports, when you get into ice skating, when you get into specifically ice skating, because it's all physical, there's nothing else there but physicality. You don't need you don't have gravity to help you. You don't have this. You don't have that. Hockey, same thing. What if the men's Albanian hockey team decides that they're all girls, and they now want to enter into the female hockey circuit?
I always thought this: why don't we get like some crazed Albanian dwarves, suit them up, and then have them go with littler hockey sticks, like through between the legs of these dudes? Think of how these folks can score like crazy. Okay, I got another couple of stories that you're going to like.
Okay.
This is another one. This is from Fox Business. And
Piss me
you
off
and
late at
I
night.
already know that having worked with government,
Yes.
government the standard in government is
Not very high. Oh, wait, were you going to say more? I thought we'd leave it there, but go on.
Okay, next story.
That was a good idea.
It was a good idea.
I'm
For
funny.
you.
I'm funny.
Oh, maybe someday I'll get to say I'm funny too. Having worked in government, both you and I know that at the end of the fiscal year, you got to use whatever it is that your budget is, okay, because
You'll have to give it back.
The standard is whatever you don't use or burn through by the end of whatever your fiscal year is, then the budgetary troops...
The most ridiculous thing.
It is. The budgetary Gestapo expect you to turn that money back. So at the end, the last 2 months, I've done it myself, then I get told...
To do it.
Literally, I
Absolutely.
get told that you're going to have to figure out how to spend X, because if you don't... that's not going to be acquired for us next year.
So let me break this down for a lot of people who may not understand the totality. Say you manage a city yards, corporation yards, the city yards, the town yards, and you have X amount of budget that's federally given to you for snow removal. Well, when it snows, if you're in a snow removal place that it's required, you better fucking spread a lot of sand.
Yes.
Because come the end of the year, if you have anything left over in that federal side of that budget, sometimes the state, depending on local laws, but specifically federal, you will have to give it back. And when you apply for money next year, if you're lower than what you were the year before, they may not give you.
Yes.
So you now have your government cronies, even though here's the thing, and I've been involved in this a couple times when I worked for a municipality. It's not your money.
Yep.
What?
But they treat it like it is.
But we have to spend this.
That's right.
Why?
This money has already been
allocated,
earmarked for us, and because of that, We shouldn't, and we're told we can't turn it back, which also leads to this.
And it's not operational money usually. It's usually outside of operational money.
Well, it's
training,
generally
equipment, budgeting,
yes,
etc.
it's discretionary money.
Yes.
Because there's money that you have to spend.
Yes.
And there's money that is discretionary in terms of your spending.
Never understood.
In other words, like we've earmarked all this stuff.
You think you get a bonus.
But exactly, you would think that, okay, I saved for government
X amount of dollars.
The taxpayers of this municipality $10,000 this year under my current fiscal year, and I gave it back.
Yes.
And then somebody somewhere would go,
and it went to the general fund for
nice
something
job.
important. Yes,
nice
congratulations.
job. But see, because of that, that's also what in D.C., this is how a cut is featured.
Yes.
It's considered in D.C. and many federal and state governments that if you don't get more than your prior year's budget, that's called, and it will always be crafted towards you as that's considered a cut. In fiscal year 2018, if you got $600,000, and for fiscal year 2019, you got $600,000. As far as anybody typifying that to the public, that's considered a cut.
Yeah.
Now, in the real world, that's the same amount of damn fucking money. But it's because of the mindset of the end of the year, you better use all that cash. That's how that comes about.
And
I haven't even gotten to the story yet.
I know, but what people don't realize, too, is cities, counties, towns, they start buying stupid shit with it just to fill a gap. And I want...
Get out of my head.
Before you read the story...
Because that's where we're going.
I want to say it was the town of Westover. It was somewhere in Massachusetts. A town of... Maybe it wasn't Westover. It was a really small town, maybe like 20,000 people who threw Homeland Security money. And by the way, there was nothing that would be a threat in their town traditionally for Homeland Security. Got one of those giant mobile command centers.
Oh, yeah. Or they got instead of...
because the money was there.
Yeah, because instead of a station wagon, they got like 2 MRAPs.
Yeah. And they're like, well, not even the MRAPs. All right, so armed suspect, I can deal with the MRAPs. I'm talking about the Winnebago buses.
Oh, yeah.
Mobile command.
Yeah.
Not for the county.
No, just
for their little city.
Yeah, like a triple axle, 35-foot.
Oh, it's like, what are you going to use this for? A crash?
Bus. Well, you'll love this then. This is what I was leading to, but I think it's important that you heard Sackhead Sean and BZ talk about how we got here, because having worked for governments, we know this is how this shit works.
Horrible.
So, and again, the headline gives it all away. Now, this is the feds. Federal government spends $4.6 million on crab and lobster tails in 1 month.
Yes.
Says a report. So the story goes like this. The federal government has an apparent taste for pricey shellfish, chowing down on $4.6 million worth of lobster tail and crab in the final year of fiscal year 2018, according to OpenTheBooks.com. And in the article, they specifically state, just like you talked about, the use it or lose it spending spree last year racked up $97 billion of U.S. taxpayer money on 509,828 contracts, an increase of more than 16% compared to the prior year. We looked at the year. It was $22 million spent by the Pentagon on lobster tail alone. Over the course of the past 4 years, on lobster tail alone, it was $55 million.
So my only exception to that rule is if there were troops anywhere deployed on a ship or not deployed eating lobster tail, I'm okay with it.
Oh, hell yeah.
100% fine.
Especially if you're on the
USS, Ronald
Ohio,
Reagan or the Ohio.
or
I don't care what you're on.
A big boomer or something like that.
I don't care
what
you're on. I don't care if you're on a base in the middle of Indianapolis. I don't care where you are. If you're in the military and you're getting lobster tail, God bless you. I'm all for it. But you know it's going to be the bureaucrats that got this. It wasn't the troops. It wasn't even the command staff.
It did not dribble down.
It was all the civilians that are attached to it, more than likely. And here's the thing. I went back a couple years ago. Remember there was that outrage about the IRS having, and I'm not a fan of the IRS having an enforcement branch, but we'll stop that for a second. the IRS had X amount of bullets and X amount of guns and this and that, and that's how much the enforcement side of IRS. Well, if you looked at when all that was purchased, they were end-of-year purchases because they said, oh, shit, we have all this money left over.
Yeah, and we
have to do something with it.
Continuously told year after year.
The enforcement side.
Spend it.
The enforcement side of any government agency, police, law enforcement, feds, federal law enforcement, public safety is the easiest place to spend that money because you can always justify it as an administrator. Well, I need 45 million rounds of 9mm because we're going to go to the range at some point. I need $45 million in Crown Victoria tires because we're going to go through tires at some point.
And
it's the easiest place in the world to justify its public safety. All the other places, you're like, well, do you need 450 brand new LCD TV monitors? Everyone's going to go, no.
Okay, quick story for when I was a range master for the sheriff's department here. I'm sorry, sheriff's office. Here.
Office. It's an office, not a department.
It's an office, not a department. Okay, so I had 3 ranges that I was in charge of, and I swear this is true. You just said 45 million rounds.
Absolutely.
And the first thing that came to my mind is 45 million rounds for the dental board.
Yeah.
In the state of California,
they have enforcement.
There is an enforcement arm of the California Dental Board.
Yes.
And they carry weapons.
Yes.
And they have to qualify. And by state law, codicil, they are peace officers in the state of California. And the first phrase that comes through my brain is, you there, put down that amalgam.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, too, if you go to California, if you go to the Department of Consumer Affairs, which licenses a lot of different occupations.
Yes, a ton
of them. If you go to their website and you look down everywhere that they oversee and license, every single department that they do it for has its own law enforcement branch.
It's just
Department of Automotive Affairs, Department of Bureau of Security Investigation Services, Cosmetic Department, Barbershop Department. They all have an enforcement bureau.
Imagine my chagrin when I saw armed dental board people come down the steps
place.
to
Dentist
my range.
place.
That's so weird.
Dentist place.
Yeah. Okay. This other story.
Fucking
now,
Tooth Fairy ain't getting away with shit this year.
That's right. 45 million rounds. Woohoo! It doesn't get any
I'd love
better
to see
than
what
that.
their budget was. I bet you they had a kick-ass law enforcement budget.
We all know this.
They had
That's true in the state of California. Towards the end of the fiscal year, which around here is the end of June, because July 1st in the state, that's the fiscal year.
Right.
And for the most of the counties and the cities in the state of California. You know, like the end of June, doesn't it make you wonder, okay, what kind of stupid shit can the dental board buy?
Barrett 50 cal for their sniper team.
You know, someone may have one of those.
Yep.
Squirreled away in one of those strange consumer affair,
or maybe they're actively training with it, right? They may be at the FBI school because they needed to spend the money, and they sent one of their snipers to the FBI
could be out
school.
there right now with like Generation 5 NVGs and their Barrett 50, right? Their M80
the dentist chair.
Their M82 sitting from the old style metal padded dentist chair from the 1800s, right, or the early 1900s. You know, and they've got the big fucking flash suppressor on the end of that thing and the big-ass unerdal scope on the top. Okay, enough of that. We have a final story that when I first read this, I thought, this is a story that Clint would appreciate, but since you're here and he's not, he can go to hell, and this story is for you.
Does my nose look big? Go ahead.
No, not at all. This is from NBC. Now,
nothing but clowns.
I preface this by saying, this is from Italy. So now that you know it's coming from Italy, then here's the headline. Italy probes overturned verdict on grounds victim was too ugly to be raped.
Holy shit.
Listen to this. It only gets worse. Again, Italy. As my professors used to say, contrast and compare Italy with the United States, Italy versus, say, California. The smaller headline under this says, 2 Peruvian men convicted in the 2015 assault successfully argued the woman was too masculine to be a victim.
Oh, my gosh.
This is from Rome. Italy's Justice Ministry ordered a preliminary inquiry into an appeals court ruling that overturned a rape verdict on the grounds that the victim was too ugly to be raped.
Horrible.
The ruling has sparked outrage in Italy, including a flash mob Monday outside the Ancona court where protesters shouted shame and held up signs saying indignation. The appeals sentence was handed down in 2017 by an all-female panel, but let me read that sentence again, folks. If you were drinking alcohol or you weren't paying attention, and we got about 2 minutes before the end of the show.
This one.
The appeals sentence was handed down in 2017 by an all-female panel, but the reasons behind it only emerged when Italy's High Court annulled it March 5th and ordered a retrial. The Court of Cassation said Wednesday its own reasons for ordering a retrial will be issued next month. The Justice Ministry says 2 Peruvian men convicted in the 2015 assault successfully argued the woman was too masculine to be a victim.
Now, so I'll tie this into your first happy story about the gal in Texas who's getting testosterone shots.
Yeah.
Whatever my opinion about her competition is, she should never be sexually assaulted. Ever. By anybody.
No.
Any human being on the planet. No. To this gal who is in Italy who these assholes raped and then used the defense that she was too ugly.
Everything that they said is absolutely, completely immaterial. Immaterial. But yet, does it not seem to you that too much of this stuff stems from Italy?
Yes.
In other words, would you ever think that you would see something like this from the UK?
Maybe lately.
Oh, I don't know.
Lately, maybe.
I don't know. But we know we can't feature and shouldn't feature that kind of thing happening in California or the United States.
You know the mindset of predators. I know the mindset of predators.
Yes, we do.
Predators will take advantage of any victim, and they're not always... pedophiles are different. They very much specifically target children.
Very calculating, very planned.
Adult predators who are not interested in children, and they are out there. It's 18 to 80, 90. They don't really care, which I'm not saying that makes this better, but what I'm saying is they will attack women who are not traditionally, quote-unquote, sexually attractive to their age group, the 35-year-old guy that sexually assaults a 95-year-old woman. It happens more than I care to admit. It happens a lot. Specifically elderly, any woman over 60, because they have a tendency to be more frail and much harder to fight back, which is why I love when I hear about an old woman pulling a gun on somebody.
Oh, that's part and parcel of
makes me happy
any
every
happy
single time.
A story like that always goes into happy
But the reality
stories.
of the situation is sexual predators who target other adults do not specifically usually care about age and or appearance. It is the completion of the act that they care about. Now, I don't know the specifics of this case.
Power and control.
Power and control, yes, sir. I don't know the specifics of this case. I don't know if this started off as like a rant at a bar where they took her somewhere afterwards.
There is no information.
It does not matter. What matters is they both had the mindset to commit the sexual assault. She was a female victim. On no planet, on no world, anywhere in reality can you say that this young lady was not attractive enough for these males to rape her. That's a fantasy land. That's a bigger fantasy land than some of these pedophiles have in their head. Because, I'll be 100% crass. Males are attracted to females. Straight males are attracted to females. A lot of times there's a lot of things that even though what Hollywood tells you is attractive does not necessarily mean that most men find that attractive. Men have a tendency to have a whole spectrum of what they find attractive and sexy or whatever.
And does that differ. I could do an hour on just that topic alone.
So to argue that this young lady who is a victim of a sexual assault, I am angry.
It's
unreasonable. It's horrific.
Beyond that, I wanted to bring it here so that people could see and understand, and this is not news to too many women, but to some people that live a sheltered life, I guess. This stuff happens.
Yes.
This stuff happens.
It does.
And you need to be aware of it,
Also
which is
often.
why I brought it here tonight. Is just my first thought after reading of that. My first honest to God thought, because you and I both know that there's I can't think of the name of the site, but there's a site created by law enforcement that's a humorous site where they frequently write stuff that is so fucking crazy over the top.
Blue News Network or something like that.
Yeah. And we know that's a crazy site. The Onion. We know that's a crazy
Babylon
site.
Bee.
Babylon Bee.
Another
exactly.
great site.
I can't tell you how many people have quoted me articles from Babylon
satirical,
Bee
all these
and said,
satirical
"Can
sites.
you believe that this
Yes,
is happening?"
It's so satirical. It's amazing.
And I looked at that story
and thought it was
and
one of
thought,
those.
okay, this is. I don't see Babylon Bee up here in the URL, so I went and got on the internet and began to search to see if this was one of those things where Snopes says,
No, this didn't happen.
This happened.
Yeah. And you know, it's just sad. Look.
2019, we're still doing this.
I go back to my point from the first story that you made, or that you brought up. What 2 consenting adults do behind closed door, or 3 or 4, I don't really care. I don't. If somebody wants to tie somebody else up and beat them with a cane and go to town. If that's what you're into as a couple, as a trio, as a quadruple, or whatever you call it, I don't care. Because everybody's there in their own free will. They are participating and enjoying it, and they're engaged on their own volition. Anytime somebody says no, stop, no, they're intoxicated, they're drugged to the point that they are no longer able to stop or protect themselves or make a decision, the answer is no.
Yeah, safe word, flak bait.
Right.
And you continue?
And you right.
No.
Nope.
No.
Nope. And that's what I mean. Like, I don't care. Like, I know that there's a lot of people on our side who come from certain places who are like, oh, how dare you? And it's just like, who cares? They shut the door. Why does that bother you? They're having a blast. Just don't listen if it bothers you. It's not a big deal. It's not our issue.
Thank God they're not in the apartment next door.
Because they respect each other. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that they don't respect and maybe even care and love each other. Who cares? As soon as the word no from a male or a female, doesn't matter who.
Stop. End. That's it.
And
Fini.
Game over. Game over. And when you don't, you become a rapist or a sexual abuser.
Yeah, or an assaulter, and fill in the blank.
I don't care what the circumstances were. I don't care. Look, I'm not. God, this is such a slippery slope, right? Because you go into that 17-year-old kid like, come on, please, no. Come on, please, no. Where it's not. He's not intending. He's trying to get to second base for the first time. He's not forcing his way to second base. There's a big difference there too. You have that conversation, that 15-year-old who's with the girl, and he's not being aggressive. He just keeps asking because he has no one else to do, you know? But that's different than, hey, I'm going to touch you. No, I am, God damn it. Totally different animal.
Yeah,
right?
That's
growing up, trying to learn your way and how to actually interact with the female as a guy and vice versa for a girl with a guy. That's very, very different.
Learning humanity.
Right.
Learning
That's
how to
very,
be
very different than being a
human.
sexual predator on any level.
Okay, we're going to have to do this again. Not necessarily this.
This topic, because this topic I could go for the next 2 hours on.
I don't even mean this topic necessarily. We're going to have to do this where it's not just 50% one-sided, where there can be equal participation in the free and creative expression on one of the shows here. Okay. So, folks, that was Sackhead Sean.
Did I take over again?
Doing that. No, that's why I enjoy having you here. Well, especially when Sackhead Sean has been lubricated a little bit, because as everyone knows, the lateness / alcohol / volume axiom is the later at night, the more alcohol you have and the louder you become, the funnier you are.
Especially me.
Yeah, well, okay. We know that's not true, but...
Especially me.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess what we're going to do is...
Monsieur! Het is locked!
We'll meet again. Don't know when. Don't know when. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, or my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. And, hey, thanks to Redcon One Media, Big Sarge, for simulcasting my show. I hope it went a lot better tonight and everybody could see the frames, not have frames dropped, that kind of thing. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and also by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also by Pratt & Whitney Engines. Thrust, you can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to by the way, my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team contingent, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks to Jeff DUNETZ for being here in the first hour. Thanks to Sackhead Sean over there for being here.
Day to my brother.
Oh, yeah. Saturday, right?
Sunday.
Yeah.
Slanta.
And I'm going to even...
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
I'm going to even talk over this, because... What was it? Saturday? Sunday?
Sunday.
Slanta. Okay. Alrighty. Folks, have a great weekend.
Good night, Dad.
And I'll be back on Tuesday. See ya. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.